Let's go to Hami, Nepal. The organization, the BBC, the New York Times, everyone admits organized the protests and is now organizing the political transition in Nepal. This is an organization that claims that it stands for the best interests of people in Nepal. Everyone wants to say it's organic, independent, but it is connected to Western corporations involved in whatever capacity involved in war and regime change around the globe. You go to their website, a youth movement, and they've got the clenched fist, and this should be a warning. This should spur you to look deeper. This is all of the ideas, concepts, imagery the US has been using for decades now to target and overthrow governments all around the world. That is not a coincidence. That's in English. It's got the clenched up fist from Serbia 2000 that they've recycled a million times since then. A youth movement, more than just an organization. All of these very nice sounding but completely meaningless slogans. You go down, this is their about page. I will again link it in the story. Championing the greater good and fighting for what's right. And they have 3 paragraphs of just absolute word salad. And all you get by reading it is that they get money from somewhere and then they use it to do good things. That's what it says on their website. And then you scroll down and they have brands that support us. And if you hover over them, you can see that they'll link off to some company or organization. Okay, and some of them are like hotels. Some of them are, this one, the Barbara Foundation. They allowed Hami, Nepal to use their offices as a headquarters for some period of time. Coca-Cola is a US-based corporation, and Coca-Cola funds a lot of the think tanks that are producing policy papers promoting war and regime change all around the globe. They also have chambers. Ireland, this is the Chamber of Commerce in Ireland, and if you go to their website, some of these are major and extremely corrupt Western corporations. They don't explain how they're associated with any of these groups. Have Viber, which the Western media says they were using to coordinate their protests, but a lot of this could just be some sort of innocent affiliation. Al Jazeera, maybe Al Jazeera featured them in an article. That's why they put them on their website. But what is Al Jazeera? Al Jazeera is basically Arab BBC. It is Qatari state-funded media, and it has supported every US foreign policy objective around the globe without exception, except for the issue regarding Israel and Palestine. But that is how they maintain credibility in the region around the world. That is what gets people to watch Al Jazeera. And then they slip in all the other color revolution justifications for war, smearing and attacking nations opposed to Western primacy around the globe. That is Al Jazeera, Qatari state media, hosting one of the largest US military bases in the region. And they just allowed Israel to kill a bunch of Hamas, not even militants or military commanders, but negotiators. And then they have, I'll get to this one in a moment. They have the Gurkha Welfare Trust. Gurkha Welfare Trust. What is that? Let me explain to you something about Nepal. Western military contractors still go to Nepal and recruit Gurkhas. The British Ministry of Defense, the British Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, they have offices and facilities in Nepal. And this is basically the retirement program for these people they exploit to build Western empire around the globe today, still to this day, today. And then when they're done with them, they send them back to Nepal. That's another organization connected directly to the British government, the Foreign Office, and the military. And now we go to this one. Students for a Free Tibet. Free Tibet, Dalai Lama. Anyone who knows anything about Tibet and the Dalai Lama, they realize this is a CIA project going all the way back to the end of World War II. I'm going to show you evidence of that from the State Department itself. Students for a Free Tibet works in solidarity with the Tibetan people in their struggle for freedom and independence. So it's not like we support Tibetan people inside of China. No, they're saying Tibetan independence. This is a separatist organization. It's not based in Tibet. It's not even based in Nepal next to Tibet, although they do have activities in Nepal. It is based in the United States, in New York City. The NED's website, this is now deleted off of their website, but you can still access it through archived versions of the web page. Tibet 2019, and if you scroll down, you're going to find not one, but at least 2 grants for students for a free Tibet. Students for a free Tibet, twice. They're mentioned twice in this disclosure. You can see there's a lot. There's a lot of programs here listed. So Hami Nepal is partners with a US government-funded separatist organization, anti-China separatist organization. It is anti-China. It also advocates for a free Tibet. It's in the name, free Tibet. This should raise a flag. When you see this, it should immediately raise a flag. You don't accidentally, casually, coincidentally find yourself connected to any defunded organizations. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen by accident. Hami Nepal is admitting these are its affiliations, a British government and military connected trust to manage the mercenaries they recruited from Nepal. Western corporations, Coca-Cola, pharmaceutical, oil, banking, and a US funded anti-China separatist movement. It all raises serious concerns. You're a youth movement and you're connected to all of these, like it's just a coincidence that you're connected to all of these Western corporations and also a front funded by the US specifically to carve territory off of neighboring China, neighboring Tibet, inside of China. This is just what Hami Nepal is admitting to. We have to remember that there is no transparency here. There never has been. All the way back to 2000, when the US used this exact same template to overthrow the government in Serbia, it was all about funding it quietly, meeting with and directing these organizations quietly, secretly, often outside of the targeted country. We know this because the people involved in it admitted it. This is a New York Times article from 2000 who really brought down Milosevic. And I'm going to read to you from it, and I'm going to show you the template, and you can see how the movement in Nepal fits into it exactly. And there's no other explanation to how this protest was organized, funded, resourced, except as yet another US engineered color revolution. So it says, for those Americans intent on bringing democracy to Serbia, the student movement offered several attractions. So talking about student youth-led movements. Its flat organization would frustrate the regime's attempts to pick a target to hit or compromise. In other words, it's very hard to figure out who's leading it. This is the whole point of using youth student-led movements. It's very hard to figure out who is in charge. By flat, they're talking about it's flat, it's decentralized. This is by design. This isn't a coincidence. It is by design. And so McCarthy says from August 1999, the dollar started to flow to Altar pretty significantly. Of the almost $3 million spent by his group in Serbia, he's talking about the National Endowment for Democracy. Since September 1998, he says Altar was certainly the largest recipient. And of course, they're funding all of these other groups, and none of them are disclosing it. So the only way you would know is by understanding what the template looks like and identifying the groups within that template. That is how you spot a color revolution. They will make mistakes. You will see it, like Hami Nepal listing an NED-funded separatist organization based in the US, funded by the US government on its website as a partner. That is a mistake, a slip up. That's how you know they were one of the organizations involved. They did not do this on their own. The money went into Altar accounts outside of Serbia. So again, they're taking specific measures to conceal their involvement in the color revolution. They are engineering and funding. At the same time, McCarthy, again, from the National Endowment for Democracy, held a series of meetings with the movement's leaders. And then they list a number of cities outside of Serbia where he met them. Okay, so it's not, we're just funding them. It's just a coincidence we're on the same page. No, you're meeting with them, you're training them, you're directing them, you're equipping them. You're running this organization. You're just making it look like a youth organization. It is a US engineered color revolution. That is how it works. The Optar leader would also meet with William D. Montgomery, the former American ambassador to Croatia, in the American embassy in Budapest. So again, secret meetings outside of Serbia. This is how they organize it. They organize it well in advance. People want to believe that a bunch of kids can just do this in less than 5 days. This required preparation. They're explaining to you how this all works. Now back to Nepal. If Hami Nepal admits it is connected to US corporations, European corporations, banks, pharmaceutical companies, and they're also somehow connected to a US NED-funded anti-China separatist organization, that's just what they're admitting to. It almost certainly has connections that it's not admitting to. Again, no matter what protest is taking place, it requires leadership and resources. So when you have to figure out who are these groups connected to? Where are they most likely getting their money? It's obvious Hami Nepal is most obviously getting its money from the US. All of the organizations that set the stage for the protests, we can verify and show the US government funding. And then Hami Nepal just coincidentally has an admitted connection to the National Endowment for Democracy, and almost certainly other much deeper connections with greater implications. Okay, so there's these protests, they're citing corruption. We're angry about corruption. We're angry about the social media platforms being shut down. You can already see the conflict of interest with CPJ being funded by US-based social media platforms. And we understand how the US uses these social media platforms literally to overthrow targeted governments, because that's what they did during the Arab Spring.